Hey everybody, it's Always Bookin Comedy. It's probably Monday night wherever you are. It's not Monday night right now. We're doing a canned episode. This is an offline episode. So if you ask us questions, we're in the past. You're gonna have to time travel to us. Today I got Patrick Scott from Denver, Colorado. I'm Mark Masters. Let's have some fun here on Always Bookin Comedy. How you doing today, Patrick?
I'm good. I'm a little tired.
A little tired. Why would you be tired, buddy?
We got a new baby, and then I drank last night, and I've just been, if I drink even a little bit, it really just kind of screws up my sleep, and I feel like shit the next day. So I think that's what it is, dude. I was just in like a meeting for work that was really boring, and I think I was literally doing the head bob, like trying to stay up. It was rude, but I'm so tired. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a
That,
great way to start these things, but yeah, I'm really tired.
that's baby life. You got two of them now, huh?
Yeah. And one, yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. It's a
Yeah.
whole thing. Lots of work. Always working. Always working comedy. Patrick Scott. Patrick
Who,
Scott.
me? I
Not as
haven't
good.
done comedy in a month.
I know.
So fucking nuts.
I was gonna say. So what's that like? So Patrick just had a second child, and I don't know. What do you call it? A pause. Like
Mm.
just not hitting the mics quite as hard, which makes sense. He's hitting the dad life a little
Yeah,
harder.
just like cascading priorities where it's like, okay, if X is true, then Y is not true kind of stuff. It's like, well, if I have to be somewhere at like 8 p.m. on a Tuesday, then I just can't do that, like because what I'm prioritizing is like making sure that my wife doesn't get overwhelmed with two babies.
Yeah.
So that prior has jumped a lot of priorities as far as comedy stuff. But it's like it really is not good for me. Like it really, I've been more irritable, like I
Huh.
just really need that kind of expression or whatever it is, or maybe the rush I get from it. I want to give it that, but just like there's something that I enjoy about it. Maybe it just makes me happy
Yeah.
that I need to. And it's like recently, like the last couple of weeks, I was like a little bit more irritable. Like if you're an addict, like or if you're trying to get off coffee or weed or something, like you get irritable for that And I think that's what was happening to me. I was just like hadn't been getting. I don't know, participating in a hobby I really like to do. So I
Yeah.
think
You're
I've been
weaning
sort
off the stage time. It's tough. It's
yeah,
tough.
just yeah, and I try and figure out why. That's what I've been thinking too. Why? But I just like I think just the expressing myself because otherwise I don't get to really express myself in other places as much as I do like when I do stand up. Even if I'm like as low level as you could be, like
Have you
for most of
tried
the times,
carting a PA around the house with a microphone? And just
no,
when you talk
nobody,
to your wife, just talk into the microphone?
no, nobody respects me around here, so they wouldn't even. They'd be like, "Shut the fuck up! No one gives a shit about your stupid musings." I make them laugh every once in a while, but. And I wouldn't even do that. I can't. I don't like being around those people that can't like turn it off too. It's like
Oh, yeah, I
frustrating.
know what you're talking
It's
about.
like, dude, what are you doing? Are you like this all the time? I thought like, because I think people have sort of an on stage and off stage persona. At least if that makes sense to me. But
Yeah.
I've met people who, and the problem is it comes off phony too. When they're like
Yeah.
on all the time, it feels like they need to be on all the time. Whereas I'm the opposite, where I'm almost like I'm almost gear it down a lot just because I think trying to be funny around other comedians makes me feel weird. So I'm like, I'm just gonna gear it down all the way and not try to make you guys laugh at all or something.
Yeah.
Because they
Huh.
do, I don't know.
Well, you make me laugh at Mike's all the time and at shows. We had a great show in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Remember that one? That
Yeah,
was a lot of
yeah.
fun.
I
That
was
was
worried
good.
about it because it was draft night and they had the
Oh,
fucking draft on.
what a nightmare. Talk about a bad show. The we get in there and I'm like, hey, cool to turn off the 7 TVs in this like
Yeah,
25 person space. And they're like, no, absolutely not.
yeah.
Have a good time on the stage is in the corner there on the floor. Have a good time.
But at least the draft is like it's got a lot of empty space as far as an event. It's just like, hey, there's a
Yeah.
draft
It
pick
was the
every 10
NFL
minutes.
draft the whole
And they
time.
were
So when we're on
good
stage, we're
people.
looking, the biggest thing we can see is this enormous television
Yeah.
that some of the audience was turned around facing, showing us their backs so they could watch the NFL draft. But
They'd get into it though. You could get
they
their
did.
attention, which,
We got them
it was a
eventually. It
fun
was fun.
show. Like, if I were to tell you like the draft's on, I'd be like, oh, that must have been terrible. Like, I don't know, it turned out pretty well. We all had a good time and people were interacting and there was people who showed up for the comedy show.
Yep.
And there
Yeah, it
was
was a
two
lot of fun.
dudes. I think you pointed this out, and it was crazy. They came to this brewery, and the brewery has like Coors, just bottles of Coors there because they get so many weird cowboys coming in. They're like, I don't want any of this fancy bullshit, and they're like, well, we get enough of these people that they just have like
Yeah.
generic
They've
Coors or
got their
something.
like homemade IPA and Coors
Yeah, brewery
Original.
shit. Hey, dude, if they want it, we'll get it, so we'll make money, I guess. But that I will remember that the most. Like, who are these dudes? Who the fuck? What do you go to a brewery and you drink
And there were people in
that?
cowboy hats. That was fun.
Yeah, there's good old boys, man. I mean, my dad's kind of that way. Or anything that's not just like basic beer or basic anything, he thinks it's like some amazing thing. You know, like if you drink anything other than Coors or eat anything other than like if I eat what was I eating? Indian food the other day. He's like, "What the fuck? You're eating Indian food?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm pretty cult." Like I felt like I was like Frasier or something because I was eating Indian food. But my
Hummus.
dad, yeah, dude, like hummus. What what? Like that? Like it's
How
not
do you even spell that?
2023. Yeah, like dude, who the fuck are you? Like maybe in like 93, I feel like people felt that way. But now I've heard about most foods and I'm open to eating other things. I'm not just like I can't. I can only
Yeah,
eat
but you got
hamburgers.
to be getting old enough at this point to realize that that's increasingly going to happen to you. There are young people who don't understand your point of view. Like
Oh,
there
it's
are new things
frustrating.
coming out. What's that?
It's frustrating. I feel that with comics too, where it's like, oh, I get it. Like young comic perspective really bothers me when it's just like de facto thoughts that they all have. Like, hey, I don't know, they're all bi, and capitalism's bad. Like, they're all these like I don't know these like weird these perspectives that I don't necessarily agree with, but I think young people really just all think that everybody agrees with them on these things like that, and it really annoys me. Like one guy was like, "I dare you!" Like he was like, "Hey, he's gonna do like an old like at the Chiefs games where they go, He was like, "No one's gonna do this because it'd be racist," and I was just there doing it. I'm like, "No, I don't care." You know, like he was expecting me to be like so offended by it that I couldn't
Right.
possibly do it in public. But I'm like, nope. This seems. I'm not necessarily scared of doing this in public. You know,
Right.
because
And
I don't know,
online programming
online.
here that will be seen by dozens.
Well, I think that's why I was talking about getting a stage name because I was like, oh yeah, man, I have so much. Like, so me and JD and Andreas used to do a podcast together, and I just thought it was funny to say really offensive shit for some reason in that in that context. And so JD just has like a soundboard of me saying things that even in context are terrible, but out of context they're fucking atrocious. And I'm like, man, me and him got into a fight, and I'm like, he's just gonna send a zip drive full of like me saying all these things to my like he could nuke my job maybe. I don't know. I do say terrible things, and I would there's nothing I could have said that I would have went like, no way. I was trying
Well,
to
maybe
be
the
like,
time is now that you've taken a little break for a while, come back as somebody new.
maybe that'd be hilarious. Uh,
I mean, like,
so
what's his name? Mike Hawkburns,
yeah,
Elliot, whatever. He did it. He switched names
yeah,
mid-career, if you will.
but he was dropping a character. Like he had done the Mike Cockburn's was a character that he did, which I never hit me until many years later that it's like a funny name, like
Yeah,
Mike Cockburns. But I was
yeah,
like, oh no, I never struck me until like 10 years down the fact.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could do that. Wouldn't that be funny though? I just show up and I'm like, hey dude, I'm fucking Fritz McGillicuddy now or some shit. But I just think
I'm different than that
I
old guy. I got two kids.
it's a
I'm
lot. You know how many
crankier than
people
ever.
uh like I after years of them knowing them, I'm like, oh, that's not your real name. Like they just have always started out with like some sort of stage name, whether it's so they what I want to do is so I could post comedy stuff online and not have to worry about it really affecting my
Yeah,
professional
you want
career.
a separation between your professional life and
Yeah.
I think there used to be a time when people were like, if you're serious about comedy, you need to quit your day job and be all in on comedy. And I
Yeah.
think that's past. And people realize, look, if you want a decent life and you want to pay a mortgage or whatever, comedy isn't paying those bills for most people. So
Yeah. And someone who's thinking that way has a different perspective on it entirely than I do, because I'm not like trying to make it or anything. I'm just trying to like get better all the time. And that's really where
mhm,
my focus is. And so, yeah, I don't need to quit my day
Let,
job to get what I need out of comedy.
yeah, let's go back to the beginning. When did you get started, and how did you get started, and why did you get started?
Oh, that's fun. It was 10 years ago now, and I always wanted to do it because I just love comedy. I would stay up late and watch Jay Leno's Tonight Show. Like, I came home early from a camping trip because I wanted to see, I thought something had happened in the news, and I wanted to see Jay Leno's monologue. And I would stay up all every night and watch the Tonight Show and all that stuff. So I've always just been a really big comedy person. So I always wanted to try it. I think at some point after college, I quit my job and like decided to just kind of, I don't know, find a better job or find something that's more fulfilling. And I that's when I started doing comedy. And I don't know, and I've just always done it. And it's always been really fun. And I've always thought I've gotten better, which I hope I have, because that's how I'm trying to like approach it. It's more of like a martial art thing as opposed to like a career path where it's like I do comedy like other people do jujitsu, where it's like I'm definitely not the best and I'm never going to beat a black belt, but if I keep trying, I'm probably going to always get better and kind of still have fun, where it's like just always trying to get better is really enjoyable when you kind of divorce it from the directly comparing yourself to other people kind of thing that could happen with comedy when it becomes your career. I feel like it's like,
Yeah,
oh, there's so many people that I admire their career, but they would be miserable because they're only headlining small clubs around the country. But I'm like, ooh, that sounds so great. Like I would love to be that successful at it. But like they're probably looking at somebody in front of them who's doing more and probably you're feeling some level of like misery. So my goal is to kind of sidestep that all in kind of a cowardly way, frankly. If like I really wanted to go into it whole hog, I could possibly fail. But in this way,
it's
it's
just
actually
about
really
improvement.
nice. Well, like
How do you
I haven't
measure that
been
improvement?
um being more present on stage has been the biggest thing that I've measured it by because at the beginning it's like a car accident. Like you don't know what's going on, like you could barely even think in the moment. And slowly, then I remember practicing jokes when I started, and I would be in my house, writing jokes, just kind of wandering around talking to myself, and I would go on really fun riffs and like try and write them down and like bottle them up in notes and then try and repeat them on stage. And there's always such a big separation between me riffing in my apartment, having fun and writing jokes, and then the performance. And I feel like the more that I've done it, that I've can achieve that just pure riffy in the momentness on stage, and like that's been really fun to try be able to do that because that's like when I'm having the most fun. Because if I'm just like going through like a set list trying to remember jokes, like it's just anxiety inducing. Like I think my brain is destroyed by too much marijuana where I really can't remember shit. But once I get into the flow of in the flow state of it and I'm in the moment and just trying to be funny and I could pull my jokes kind of as they come, that's been really fun. So it's just, I guess it's like if you're lifting weights and you're like, holy shit, I could lift heavier weights, and you start doing, having better performances. I guess I should have like more concrete measurements, but
You're having fun. There's no
it's
right
always
way
just
to do
been,
it.
yeah. But if people said like, I need to get, passed at this club, maybe that's a better way of thinking about it than just like me going like, well, I just feel, I'm just getting better, man. Just always some hippie bullshit where it's like maybe it's better to actually set concrete goals where it's like, hey, I need to do X. Um,
So here's my perspective on that. The concrete goals are often problematic because you can't directly control the outcome. So if your goal is to get past at club XYZ, there's so much that goes into that that is not just you being funny. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's true.
So, and that
But it's
that can
never
be
going to
so
be,
frustrating and just really crush your spirit if you're heavily focused on that.
hmm
So I think I'm a little different. My attitude towards comedy is a little different than yours, but I definitely try not to put too much weight on things I can't control.
other
Uh,
people's opinion of you, and like you're standing in some sort of cliquish comedy
well,
thing. Is that
not,
what you're talking about?
that's one of them, but also like a lot of the metrics, like do I like I'm about to go on a 2 week road trip, and
hmm
2 years ago, like the way I look at it is 2 years ago, if if I went on a 2-week road trip, it would have been open mics almost every night. And maybe one night I'd do a booked show. And this time around, like half the nights at least are booked. And I can be upset that the other nights aren't booked, but it's not like really in my control exactly.
Okay. Isn't it though? You could book. Can't you always find somewhere to like book yourself?
It turns out no.
Oh yeah.
Uh, like for example, like it is totally random, but like I got a Saturday night 10-minute spot in a city in the southeast that's several hours drive from multiple other markets. And I basically reached out to every other market because I wanted to do like half an hour or an hour, get like a maybe even headline a show. And I struck out in every market. Like I couldn't get a show. I mean, maybe I could like rent my own theater and put on my own show, but that's a whole nother level of
No.
challenge.
Yeah, if you had like a Instagram following maybe or something like that, but
Well, I do, I'm not even on Instagram and I do that stuff all the time. That show in Cheyenne, I did that. I mean, the venue
yeah.
helped a little bit, but that was basically like I got the space and I put on the show and sold. Actually, that show was free. So that's a little different because the tickets were free, but same kind of idea.
Yeah. But I imagine every little place, I mean, if you're down to do like bar shows and shit, like it doesn't every little city have like a little comedy scene and shit?
Yeah, you'd think so, but that doesn't necessarily mean like just imagine coming to Denver this Saturday, which would be what, 14th. Saturday,
Yeah.
October 14th. Today, you were trying to get a show on Saturday, October 14th. Do you think you could get a spot for sure?
A
No.
proper vouch. If you had a good vouch, yes. But if
Maybe,
you
but even other shows might say, "Look, we're already booked. We've been booked for
yeah.
months," or uh, there's some other reason we don't. We're focusing on local talent or whatever.
Well, if somebody came to me like that, because I do book a couple shows, I'd be like, it's too late, dude. I'm not fucking. I got everything. Why would I have openings? Like you'd really
Exactly.
have to do that like a month or two ahead of
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah,
then
and
it's
I
less
think
ridiculous.
what I learned in this is that Saturday is different than a Wednesday. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite at that level yet, I don't think, where I can command a spot on a weekend show. Whereas I'm kind of getting comfortable most smaller markets on a weeknight, I can find a show and get on it and maybe even be bumped up to headliner.
Yeah. I always
But
presume anybody coming from out of town's funnier than they are. I don't know why that
yes,
is.
of
It's always weird.
course.
I'm like, oh, you must be good. You got into a car to do comedy and traveled more than, you
Yeah.
traveled state lines. You must be
It-
funny. And it really hasn't burnt me yet, thankfully. Where it's like people will reach out to me.
yeah.
I don't want to watch their videos either. Like
Right.
watching people do comedy makes me anxious. At least on like YouTube and shit. I don't know why. I don't like to watch it. So I just take them at their word. I'm like, hey,
Huh.
you must be coming here. You'll do fine. If
There's a
not,
business saying I love that is an expert is anybody who lives 40 miles away or farther.
who is that a real thing? I want that's
It's a real,
amazing.
it's like forever. It's been a thing, because like you work at a company and they'll bring in some yoo-hoo from Chicago and it's like,
Yep.
this is the expert and they don't know anything. But it
Yeah.
feels good to say, oh, we brought in somebody from Chicago
Yep.
or,
I've had
whatever
shit like
you're
that happen.
be. And it happens in comedy for sure,
Yep.
where people are like, and as a show producer, it's cool to tell an audience, look, this person came in from California. This person came in from
hmm
Wisconsin. You're seeing some geographic diversity in our lineup tonight.
It's nice too because you could tell. I don't know what it is, but people around a certain scene always have similar styles, and it's nice to have like a fresh, like not overexposed to whatever the cadence. Like Denver really has a cadence, or like everyone has their fucking feet planted in the ground. Like no one's doing Dane Cook shit.
Right.
Uh, So like having someone come out, like even Colorado Springs people, when I bring them up, I'm like, oh, it's such a different energy. Like they have such a more, I don't know, like Def Comedy Jam kind of vibe to them for some reason. I have no idea what it is, but I think it's like the popular comics in the scene at that time really influence everyone in the scene.
Yeah.
That's my theory. Because there's
But
like must be a Sam Talent influence around Denver that we don't even know, or we can't even like really pick out.
yeah,
But I think there is.
maybe he's so original though. I don't know if that's a good example. I don't know that people are very much like him. He's I can't
Oh,
think of comics that sound like him or act like him on stage.
I could think people who dress have the whole I'm like eccentrically schlubby look. I could think of people who kind of have gone that road, but that's really, yeah,
Yeah.
that's not a great example. Yeah, he's probably not a good example.
Let's talk about show running a little bit. So you started 10 years ago. Do you remember the first show you ever ran and why you decided to do that?
I just ran it like a year and a half ago, and it
Oh,
was
no way.
Steve Vanderploeg, who runs all those rotating tap shows. He said, "Hey, does anyone want to help me out with shows?" And I was like, "I just want kind of like a turnkey kind of like thing to get my feet wet." And so I decided to do those, and I hate it. I really don't like it. Like my wife just hears me bitch about it because it's the part of comedy I don't like, where it's like planning and then like having to like really communicate with other comedians and like I have to say hi to everybody. I really hate the social aspect of it because I'm really shy. So it's like the fact that I have to do all this communication with comics and like make sure they're greeted hi and goodbye, that kind of like adult shit, not always just gives me a lot of anxiety.
So why
But
do you do it?
it's made me better. It's definitely, I think, the thing if you need to, and I want to run my own show because it's like just the thing I need to do because with the less comedy time, I just need the best way to like get the most out of out of my comedy time is to like run a weekly room, and I think that will probably be like the best way to spend my time is like, okay, I can only get X amount of time out of the house without feeling like an asshole. Well, if I run a weekly comedy show near the house, I could keep it close and like take a decent chunk of time. And then it won't be like waiting 3 hours in an open mic to get 4 minutes and that kind of stuff. So it seemed like the best situation. So I'm still looking to do that, but I'm always nervous about approaching venues. And so that's what's nice about Steve's thing is everything was done. I just have to book the shows, bring in the PA, collect the check, and then do all the not fun stuff. But it's
Yeah.
like it's made me better because I've put myself into situations that I'm not comfortable with. And just a comic and person, which I think is underrated with a lot of this. I've become a way better person because of doing comedy. Like I'm such an introvert um, that I have grown so much putting myself into comedy situations. I'm still like really bad socially, and I'm kind of a recluse, but uh, I was way worse. And so comedy's really helped me be a better person too, like just basic human skill shit that I wouldn't have done if if not for it. So that's been really good. But that's the thing that also I really hate about hosting these shows is, and then I have to, I got to be nice with the venue people. Like I want to build that relationship, but it just drains me to actually be like, I don't know, have these really, I don't know, build relationships with these venue owners because it's just not my bag.
Yeah.
But something I should get better at as a human being is building relationships with people. That's what I was like. I think that's the most important thing that I wish I would have done better. Build relationships, make friends. They'll give you opportunities, and if you do good at those opportunities, that will beget other opportunities. It's just, but it needs to start with like building relationships. I think that's probably the same with anything, but at comedy, it's huge, and I've done a terrible job of that. All my friends I've made through comedy are just nice people who I don't know talk to me, and then because I'm not going to go out on that ledge and like start a conversation oftentimes, so it's just nice people who ended up talking to me, and we got like I've made good friends, but I wish I would have networked more or gotten better at networking. Yeah, for everything. That's my next skill I want to get.
There's still time. And I'm sure
Oh
your
yeah,
show running is helping your networking.
for
You're
sure.
reaching out to all these comics, 5 a week or whatever.
Yeah, makes me
So,
better at being a person who reaches out to bookers too, as well, because I know
yes.
just get to it. Don't bullshit. I don't need to hear this or that. Like I'll just give you the facts. Here's a link to a video. Um, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you
I don't
see
need to.
what people do wrong
Yeah,
when you're on the other side, and then you can use that to your advantage.
yeah. Because I haven't asked to be on a lot of things. I've only asked to be on a certain amount of things. But now I feel like I will do that more in the future because I know that, especially if someone I already know who knows me that trusts me to be funny, it's like, yeah, why don't you could ask. It's a welcome when someone who's funny asks to be on your show because it's like, great, that's one less freaking message I have to send out. And so yeah, I get that a lot more. And I would never do that in the past. Ask to be on a show. It's crazy. Then I realized how many people are actually doing that all the time. And I'm like, whoa, I have so much more shame than these people. Like
Right.
these people are, and some of them aren't even that funny, which is crazy. It's like, wow, why are you such a go-getter in like the not funny way? You know, like you should be trying this hard to be funny, not to get on show. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
they have it reversed.
I
So,
hear you.
but
Yeah, I'm pretty
it's been good.
shy in the Denver market. I don't really know, and I think it's an age thing for me. I'm just like
Maybe.
not. Most of the showrunners are half my age.
You know what?
And
I've been
I
amazed
just
by
don't
how
feel
much that isn't
comfortable.
a thing, though. Like when I'm around, I do feel like I'm more comedy or comedian than I am old when I'm around comics.
Yeah,
Like I
true.
do think we are on a common. Like I never think about fucking Jeff Cohn being like super old, but he is, I think. You know, or
Yeah, he's
but
in my neighborhood, I guess. A
I
few
do
years
like
older than me,
talking
maybe.
to the 20 somethings, and the like. I was doing. Someone was asking me, who's a younger comic, about like a roast joke, and I thought it was great, but I had to tell him I'm 35 years old. I think offensive stuff's funny, and maybe people younger than me aren't that into that. So I'm just saying this from a guy who grew up in the 90s and thinks offensive stuff's funny,
Yeah,
and and sometimes that's not the case, and I think it's more about money than age and stuff, but some groups of people really are uptight, and I have no idea how to get around that because I just all my comedy energy is from a different era where it was like, yeah, you say things that are kind of line stepping, and that's
yeah.
kind of half the fun, and that's like what it like
Well,
that.
that's a good callback to Sam Talent. I think that's Sam Talent's skill is he's
Yeah,
offensive. And I don't
yeah,
see most of Denver comics being offensive. They're more
yeah,
woke than offensive. So that's where I have a little trouble with that. Oh, everybody's in the mold of Sam Talent. I don't think that's really
yeah.
necessarily.
No, it sounds like it was a bad analogy for sure. It did not stand up to any tests.
Yeah.
But no, but I think he's just at a position where he doesn't care about what everyone else thinks about him, so he could just be honest. Where I think people that are more in that are burdened by what other people in the scene think of them, will be held down by like, oh, I don't want to be offensive because I don't want to, listen. Like, I don't think Mike Hammock has been a part of the High Plains Comedy Festival, and even though he's been like one of the funniest comics around for a long time and one of the Comedy Works new faces stuff. He's never done High Plains because I think the people who run it don't like that he has a very right, not like a very, he just thinks right wing thoughts,
Yeah.
not in a bad way. He just literally is like a fucking old school Republican. And it's
Huh.
like, and like, that's the only reason he's not there. And that's bad because he's one of the funniest guys around. He just has a joke of why he thinks abortion's bad. Like,
Yeah.
why is that? Why is that a fucking thing? So that's why I always take everything with a grain of salt with some of that stuff because
Have you booked Mike Hammock?
um I haven't.
Look at the pot calling the kettle black or whatever that saying is. You got
I
to
have
add that to your
that's
list.
that's a fucking that's my self-esteem. I have trouble asking people who are like from Colorado Springs and stuff to do my show because
Oh,
I don't want to like why would they come so far
I
to
think
do
the
my
trick
shit?
is, like one trick is if you can bundle them. Like, because I
Yeah.
book mountain shows, right? So I'm asking people to drive 100 miles
Uh-huh.
and some of my shows. And I just, I try and get to know people's ability to get 100 miles. Some people
Uh-huh.
don't even have a car. Uh, and so you got to like pair people together. So if you could ask Mike Hammock and two other Colorado Springs comics on the
Uh-huh.
same show, that's like a win, you know?
Maybe I'll do that where it's like, hey Mike, do you
Or
want to
you
head?
just you tell him, "Hey, I want to book you on this show, and I have two slots. If you want to
Yeah.
pick two comics you like and run them by me." I do that a lot.
Yeah, and I would even take his word at it. I don't even need to see anything. But yeah, it's funny that I haven't booked him because he's one of my favorites. I don't know
Hmm,
that, and
there you
that's the
go.
other thing too. Not taking shit personally is like, oh, someone hasn't booked me, they must hate me. And I'm like, now knowing it from my side, I'm like, no, I just haven't thought. For some reason, I'm fucking gobsmacked that I haven't thought about having Mike Hammock headline my show. It had nothing to do with him. It's literally hadn't. I'm just sitting
I
in front of a
wish
computer trying to think of comedians, or
I
I
wish
use fucking
somebody would
face.
come up with like a database of Colorado comedians. I
Hmm.
wish, like, I feel like a lot of people have their own lists, of comedians, but I wish there was like one and I could just go through it and like check off the people I've booked in the last year, etc. That'd be a lot
Yeah.
of help.
Could you, do you think with that situation, each of those comics gets, that's like Yelp. You have Yelp for
Yes.
comics.
Well, this is what I was just thinking. As I was saying it, I was like, everybody's list, they could rank them themselves. It would be private to them by how funny they think everybody is.
Oh
And so you just
no.
work your way down the list, booking people. And nobody would know that you're number 150 on your list. But because I
There's got to
think
be a public list,
it's
right?
like
Like what
hot
are
or
the
not,
show?
or,
Yeah.
some of these old websites.
So it's like Tinder. It's pictures of comics and you swipe left, swipe right if you like
Yeah,
them.
if somebody made an app like that, it wouldn't take that long to swipe through all 300 Denver comedians. They just like compare them. You'd be like, yeah, that one's better. Yeah, that one's better. That
Or
would
it's
be
just,
really helpful for the bookers.
it would be so huge for particularly, so Steve was very upfront with me when I started that show. It's like, hey, I want a certain level of diversity. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep.
Fine rule. But that is very difficult sometimes where it's like I have went through like 15 women and they all couldn't, like it's like sometimes they, and you're running out of it in your head. But if I could just go onto a spreadsheet
Yeah.
and just, okay, I need because there's a quota that I have to meet. I need to find a person of, I need to filter by age.
Yes.
And I maybe even like a dirty slider would be nice, where it's like, oh, I need someone
We
who's
should,
dirty
Patrick. I think
clean.
we're inventing a company right now. We'll make no money. We'll have
I
negative
mean, it's,
revenues. This is a great
hey,
idea.
you throw some fucking Google ads on that, at least it's some passive income.
Yeah. And get some, maybe we could get some kind of like grant money because we're encouraging the DEI. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I think it's DEI or D and I, diversity and inclusion. There's like money.
Ah,
Like sometimes I work with like big corporations, and when I like fill out the contract stuff, I have to like check a box if I'm a DEI vendor or DNI vendor, and I
oh
never check it
wow,
because I'm not. I'm like, I'm the opposite of diversity,
that's funny.
unfortunately for me. Sometimes, I mean, fortunately, in other situations, I guess I shouldn't. I shouldn't. Uh, I'm
Well,
gonna
you
get
know,
that clip right there.
my feelings on that, which I'm fine with all the diversity stuff. The only thing I don't like is when there's no diversity of opinion or like perspective. That's what I try and book is like,
Yep.
okay, we got an old person, we have a dirty comic, we have a weed comic, but we're not like overlapping enough. And I do think sometimes, and especially with maybe some of the like LGBTQ shows, like imagine if, wonder if it's like I can't. It's not just all about being gay, so I bet you it's fine. But like when it's too laser focused on a topic in a group, sometimes I think you don't get diversity of like perspective. And so I try my best to both do for what I think are superficial things like sex and race. I do book for that, but I will also book for diversity of thought and presentation.
Yeah.
Like oh this was an
Like high
energy
energy,
person.
low energy. I
Yeah, that's
totally
way more
agree.
important.
And it's
Way more
somebody
important.
I've learned so much doing comedy, and a lot of it has been business related. Like because
Mhm.
essentially I'm a small business owner. I'm running these shows. I'm in charge of the budget. I got to sell a certain number of tickets, and I spend a lot of time talking to customers. And I'm really surprised. One of the things that surprised me the most is how frequently a couple will come to a show and have different favorite comedians on the lineup.
Yeah,
Like
isn't
there'll
that
be
crazy?
5 comics on a show, and you'll look at a lineup, and to you, you'll be like, "That's the best comic by far." Everybody's gonna
Uh-huh.
think, Sam Tallent's on the show, Sam's gonna be the funniest. No, you get Sam Talent on a show, and the wife of somebody is like, "You know what? I didn't really care for Sam, but I loved uh, Lee Altoff, for example."
Yeah. And it's
Uh,
not even like it has
like a
nothing to
low
do with
energy,
like yeah.
yeah.
It
Uh,
it has nothing to do with like their better or worse too. It's just like I like this flavor,
yeah,
you
it's
know?
subjective. Comedy is very
Yeah.
subjective, and that goes all the way back to like not caring too much about things you can't control. Because like
Hmm.
contests used to drive me crazy, and they
Hmm.
still do a little bit, but I'm getting better at realizing contests aren't always fair, and
Well,
there
yeah.
there's a
I mean,
subjective, like you just can't. It's like an any given Sunday kind of thing. Like depending on who the judges are, they're gonna like certain things over other stuff.
and okay, so I did the New Faces thing at Comedy Works. They're bringer shows. They're just you know, it's basically a
But
bringer
they
show.
don't give credit to the bringers anymore. Did you know that?
What do you mean?
They used to give you points for
Oh,
bringing, and now they
yes.
don't.
But
And
they're
on my
still.
show, somebody brought 10 people and didn't advance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't think you should be able to buy your way, but I think you really. But well, anyway, they're bringer shows, so you bring friends into the audience, and then they give clipboards out to people in the audience to score them. And I've been in those situations where that was where that was how they scored stuff. And it's like, oh, it's clear that somebody's friend really pushed them higher than they should have been. Like there's a weird thing where it's like all
Yes.
this room is filled with people's friends and family, and they're the people who are going to judge. And I wouldn't be like a fucking angel. I would definitely put the finger on the scale for people I like. So
Yeah.
there's just like an inherent flaw with that. But also, I do think a lot of times I agree with who won, where it's like, oh yeah, that was the funny person. So maybe people have more.
Yeah.
Uh, um, but then there's other times where it's out of the blue. Who the fuck? How'd that happen? And I do
Yeah.
think that that's
Or there are just so
probably
many people that are like close to the top, and it's like,
yeah.
how are you even going to pick the top two or three?
Yeah, it's subjective. It's very
Yeah.
subjective.
So, all
The
right,
I
buddy,
with the my oh, is it over?
oops, we got to kind of wrap this up, I think.
Oh, okay.
So much fun talking to you, though. Did you have another contest story you wanted to share real quick or thought?
Oh, I just want to like I just try and be in the moment with those things because everyone's very stiff. And last
Yeah.
night I made fun of Elliot because he was drunk. Like Elliot Woolsey was hosting, and my first thing was making fun of him for being drunk. And I'm like, I don't know if I should have done that. I feel like I should, I feel like I should have talked to him afterwards. But I was like, I wonder if I threw him under the bus there. Is that bad? The guy who runs the show, I just like made fun of him because he was clearly a little overserved. But I
What
feel like that's
happened last night? Who was in it? Who should have won? Who did win?
I would
Or
not
do they
say
not announce winners because there's two shows?
no, they'll do it. Jake to Pizza, I think that's how you pronounce it, was the
Yeah.
guy who advanced. And then I think we have another show Wednesday, which is very exciting. Because
Cool.
the Sunday South Club shows are not well attended, or, you know, they're struggling to fill those. But I feel like I'm going to invite all my friends to the downtown show. So I
Nice.
have a feeling that that one's going to be the one where you could actually get a nice tape out of it.
Yeah.
And it'll be
Did
like
they
a
only have
really
one
good show.
winner last night?
Yeah, I think that's all they do.
Interesting.
I think on the second night there could be two because they have like some convoluted if you got a high enough score in both shows, which is just like who would make it so complicated for themselves? Just make
Right.
it one, you know. But
Did you
that's
feel like anybody like did you feel like you should have advanced or anybody else? Was it
um
close? Was it tight?
somebody told me when I got off, they're like, "Oh, that was the best set. You're definitely gonna advance." Then when I thought back on it, I was like, I don't know if they were lying to me or what, but it was like, no, dude, I forgot where I was halfway. I was like
Oh
kind of
no.
riffing, yeah, but not in a bad way. Only
Okay.
I knew it, but like it
Yeah.
wasn't like
Okay.
boom, 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 boom. I was going off the top of the head because I wanted to riff at the top, so I did like two riffs at the top that did actually really well. And then I fucking couldn't remember to go into my like, you know, my list of jokes I wanted to go through, so I half panicked. But everything worked fine. But no, I should not have advanced. But
Okay.
uh, it was a good show. It was a great show. Great diversity of acts, dude. There's so many
Yeah.
different people with different approaches. It was a
Huh.
really good show.
Who
So
was in the top for you?
I really liked cameras for Elliot Weber.
Okay, yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that one. I thought that's who I had advancing.
Huh.
So I just thought he got. I don't know how I measure it, but I'm like, you gotta get this person to get the biggest pops and the most energy in the room and shit. And I think
Yeah.
he was the one who who did it, which is also bad because it's like I remember Zach Reinert didn't advance one year in like the first round. And it was clear that like somebody he just got scored low on the rubric because
Yeah.
he's got low energy, but that's his fucking style. So it's like then the person who's judging should not fucking just blindly go by energy thing on the rubric, you know?
Yeah.
So, um, no, it was a good show. I'm excited about the Wednesday show downtown, and
Fun.
I think I'm getting to the point where it's like I just need to be confident about myself. Like I don't need to be shy about thinking I could do well and even advance because most of the time I'll try to like downplay confidence, almost trying to protect myself. But I think I don't need to do that. I think I could say like, oh no, I could definitely do that, especially if I hit the right moment and like actually are in the moment and riffing on things that are happening. I think I could do that better than a lot of those people. And so that would be a way of standing out, particularly in a
Nice.
competition. So that's what I'm trying to do.
That's awesome. Patrick, I
Yeah.
think I will probably have you back because I could talk to you for another hour easy. Piece of cake. We need to take a road trip to like
Yeah.
Montana or something and just talk comedy. But I got to run to a doctor's appointment, unfortunately.
All
So I
right.
got to
Well,
cut
hope
this
you.
off. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Always Booking Comedy. Patrick Scott from, do you say you're from Denver, Colorado?
Yeah. Oh, Aurora. Good.
Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah.
I got to talk to you for like 1 second when I hang this up because I'm
Okay.
going to start a show in Aurora, I think. But so
I could
fun
run it.
talking to you. 10 years, everybody. Patrick Scott, 10 years, 2 kids, and
Yeah.
still having fun at it. We'll see you next time, everybody.